Well, hello and welcome to another Tyrrell's Classic Workshop. This is a little bit like a day in the life of, because I'm actually in Denmark at the moment. I've come over here to meet up with a very serious car company over here, and I'm doing a series of events with them, including one event, tuning a Miura live. This is something I have done occasionally, tuning a Miura live in front of a live audience, adjusting the carburettors and setting the engine up. So join us as we do that, and yeah, let's see where we go.
At tage nogle stikord, fordi... Oh, and I forgot to mention, he only speaks English. So I will do that from now. And I had to take some notes because the guys upstairs, they talked about ice racing, which reminded me that Iain is from England, where they don't actually use winter tires. So I'm surprised you made it here at all. All driving in England now is like ice racing, so I think maybe you should join us in February. Then there was a tuning expert talking about chips. I know now Iain is a specialist in chips. He's quite the expert. Yesterday we had, and you just looked at it and said, this chip has been triple cooked, and it was right. So he certainly knows his chips. You also know the Alps, because you made quite a movie about a trip in the Alps in a Miura. Might be a story that you will watch on YouTube later this Christmas. And then I have to correct Troels when he said Goodwood, it's just about hygge. No, it's not. Goodwood is the best motor racing event. Please support me in that, Iain. The reason for Iain being here is to do, he's done a lot of work for us over the years and was delivering one of the works, the engine down there, today. So when Jakob asked, what should we do to entertain DC Workshop guys? I said, Iain happens to be here, Iain Tyrrell. He's super big on YouTube, because I thought YouTube would vibrate better. And Jakob said, okay. And I said, Jakob, these guys, do they know what a carburetor is? I said, I don't think so. So that's actually where I would like Iain Tyrrell to kick off by teaching you what a carburetor actually is and how it works. Therefore, we brought in this special equipment. It is called a whiteboard. That was too technologically advanced for Iain, so he asked for paper. So, and you can store the information on this paper, several gigabytes of it. Maybe you will do that later. But please say welcome to Iain Tyrrell, all the way from cold England.
Thank you. Well, yeah, I mean, we have here a Lamborghini Miura. This car is from, I'm guessing, 1970. I don't know.
71.
71, yeah. Okay. This was commonly known as the first ever supercar. There are other pretenders to that name. There is the Mercedes 300 SL Gullwing from 1953, 54. But this is commonly regarded as the first supercar. And one of the reasons why it was called that is because it's a thing of beauty. Even now, the shape is still amazing. We were just saying that this car actually is missing something, which the more astute of you may have observed. It's over there. And the reason for that is because what is under the skin is every bit as beautiful as what is on top. And that's what makes this car so special. They made 762 of them, so by today's standards, not a lot. But this is still, I don't like using the word, but I will use it in this case. It's one of the most iconic cars ever built. Ferruccio Lamborghini was an entrepreneur. He had a meeting with Enzo Ferrari, which did not go well. He complained about the clutch on his Ferrari, and Enzo Ferrari said, you carry on making tractors and I'll make supercars. That's not the sort of thing you say to Ferruccio Lamborghini. So he started his own car company in 1963, and he got the best young talent in Italy. And they, of course, Marcello Gandini did a wonderful job of styling the car, but this bit, the technical bit, is also made in-house by Lamborghini, and it is At the time, it was absolutely state of the art. In fact, this car and the models before it gave Enzo Ferrari a serious shock. He had to actually bring out a car called the 275 GTB4 to respond to Lamborghini making this engine. And that's quite an achievement to frighten Enzo Ferrari into making a new car. Technologically, it was the absolute state of the art for road cars at the time. It's a V12 engine, and it's very tightly shoehorned into here. To actually fit the engine in this car, you have to start like that and actually put the engine in. It's a real job of work. And then you have to add all the parts on the ends. It is literally shoehorned into the frame because it's a big engine. It's a 4-litre, 4-camshaft engine, and what Claus was referring to was these things here, the carburettors. It's got 12 cylinders, it's got 4 carburettors with 3 chokes in, 3 independent passages, tubes inside each carburettor. And in fact, the Porsche 911, the very first Porsche 911s, had 2 of these carburettors, but they were mounted like the engine here. So this has got 4. And this really was the height of carburettor development. Then they went on to fuel injection. Lamborghini didn't for a number of years, but a lot of car manufacturers did. And these are the ultimate in carburettors. If I tell you a set of these 4 carburettors, probably now is about £15,000 just for 4 carburettors. So they're very collectible. And the reason why they are so special is because they were cutting edge. This is basically a racing car setup. So it's, as I say, 1 carburettor choke per cylinder. Normally on an engine like this, of this era, you would have maybe 1 or 2 carburettors in a 6-cylinder engine. Because this V12 is 2 6-cylinder engines put together. But no, you have an individual carburettor choke for each cylinder. What is a carburettor? So a burette is a chemical instrument. In fact, I'll do this with my right hand. So a burette is a tube which goes like that, a glass tube, and it has a valve here with you twist it through 90 degrees and the valve opens. And what a burette does is it measures precisely that you fill this with your chosen fluid, water, gasoline, whatever, oil, and you turn the tap and the level is incremented very thoroughly here, and you can measure, if you're looking at how big a combustion chamber on an engine is or whatever, the burette actually measures extremely accurately the amount of liquid that's gone into the engine. So that is where the expression carburettor comes from. This is a chemical part. If we take the 3-choke carburettor, for example, such as we have here, you have 1 trumpet there, 1 trumpet there, and 1 trumpet there. Okay, the air gets sucked in to the top of the engine you think of modern cars, people go crazy for ITBs, we call them in English, individual throttle bodies. A lot of cars have individual throttle bodies because it is the best way. When you put your foot down, the throttle response is instant because it's not just one butterfly, as we call them, one plate opening. It's actually however many there are per cylinder. You get instant throttle response. It's like flicking a switch. And that's what this had. You have the carburettor like that, and then the air gets sucked into the engine. You have the throttle at the bottom here, which you work with your foot. When it's closed, it's like that, and obviously when it's open, it's like that, so all the air can pass through. The fuel comes in the top, and then you have, so this is the float chamber, as it's called here, where the fuel lives. And then you have various jets, tiny little holes in here. And as the engine cylinder pulls the air in, the petrol comes out of each of these holes in different ways at different times. So you have one jet for ticking over, for idling, you have another one for acceleration, another one for cruising, another one for high speed. And the plan, if they've got it right, is that you actually transfer from one jet to another as you drive the car and back again. The way Weber used to make these was incredibly clever. They would, because there are tiny passages inside these carburettors where the petrol and the air go through. It's extremely scientific. And one of the ways that Weber actually made sure these carburettors were, all the passages were exactly as they should do, they used to fill the carburettor with gas, and then they would cause it to explode. They would ignite it, and it would clean and smooth all the passages inside out. Extremely clever technology for the time. But the problem is, like a modern car, it's not computer controlled. There is no ECU on this car. It's all nuts, bolts, screws, washers, nothing more than that. So what I've been asked to do is to balance the carburettors on this engine live in front of you now. And this is quite difficult to do.
Yeah, but you also have the help of some extremely advanced technology.
I do.
Tools.
We do, yes. We have some, these have been specially imported. Obviously, I had a big problem with customs with these. This is a carburetor approved tuning instrument, otherwise called a rubber hose. This is a long, thin tool of extreme speciality, otherwise known as a screwdriver. And the main ingredient I use when tuning these is my ears. I've been working on these cars for 40 years, and one of my specialities is balancing the carburettors. It's very important to go back to my jet explanation. Once you get the car on the road and you're doing 2,000–3,000 RPM with a reasonable amount of load, you're accelerating, cruising, the idling, all the jets that take care of the engine when it's running at low speed are redundant. They're finished. But getting the engine to run properly at low revs is extremely important. Because if it's not right, if the air volume is not balanced between the carburettors, it causes difficulty. And also the ratio between air and fuel going into the engine must be exactly correct. And to use a very big English word, it has to be stoichiometrically correct. 14 parts air to 1 part petrol. That is the ideal mixture. So, we also have this tool, which is an extremely sensitive calibrated tool called a manometer, which you place on the carburettors, and all the best mechanics use this. This is extremely important. So, okay, so we're going to start the engine now, and I've deliberately sabotaged this engine. I have never seen this car before until this afternoon.
Will it start?
I hope so. Oh yes, we need to turn that on. Thank you. Okay. You just turn the throttle, Klaus. I've got it here. You just turn the key, sorry.
All right. No stabbing the throttle?
No, no.
All right.
And again. It doesn't sound too bad, but it's lumpy, it's not happy. So I'm going to go around each inlet and listen. Okay. So this carburettor is admitting more air than this one. So I can also smell it's very rich, the mixture. Too much petrol for the air going in. Okay. That's better. Much better. Okay, same at the back. Beginning to get a bit smoother now. Yeah, that's good. Okay. I'm happy now that all 12 cylinders are balanced. So now what I'm going to do is actually the ratio between air and petrol I was talking about. There is too much fuel going in for the air, so it's not 14:1, it's maybe 6:1 or 7:1. So I'm going to change that now. I have to listen to the tone of the engine to hear every screw as I adjust it. You hear the tone's gone down? That popping is the cylinder trying to work. There we are. Same again, the tone has lowered. You can hear the tone just changing slightly. So I'm now doing the same on the front row of carburettors. I'm getting the mixture right. I'm now going to balance a coin on its edge on the engine. There we are. Just there. And now we have to give it a little rev, of course. There you are. Thank you.
That's a 10-minute job, and the price at Iain Tyrrell's is £2,500
Each.
per cylinder.
Yes.
No, but this is an amazing piece of artistry, I would like to say, and maybe you should explain. You have a special hearing, Iain. Not everybody can manage to do that.
Well, I've always been interested in music. That helps. I've studied music, etc. But it's the first noise I'm listening to is the strength of the pull, because when that cylinder is working properly at full efficiency, you get a dum through the carburettor throat. So I'm listening for lots of dumps, preferably the equal amount out of each carburettor. And then when you adjust the mixture, the differential ratios of petrol and air, what's happening is, if it's too rich, it makes a hissing noise, like a tch-tch-tch-tch-tch. And if it's too weak, it pops and crackles because the cylinder is struggling to fire at all. So what I'm looking for is for those noises to disappear and just the strong dum to remain, and that's what we've now achieved.
And these are the tests we are performing later. You're going to replicate the noises.
Yes.
That
Any volunteers?
But it's I know these people are also interested in the power figures, and this is a 4-liter engine. So what is the actual power output? Because we on certain occasions talk about Italian horsepower.
Yes, versus
Danish
German
horsepower,
yes.
for example.
Yes.
So this, I think a Lamborghini stated 365
well,
something like that.
Yes, it was actually 375 for this model, for the S. But that doesn't sound super impressive now. I mean, hypercars can develop 2 times, or even in the Veyron's case, nearly 3 times that, if not. But you've got to remember, this car weighs 1,100 kilos. Mm. It's power to weight at the end of the day. How much does a Veyron weigh? Twice that, probably.
Yeah. But are the horses actually there, Iain?
Oh, yes, they are.
Yeah. So it does, on the bench, develop...
Yeah. They're pretty honest horsepower, actually. Yeah.
There's one myth debunked. Then there's another one. I don't know if anybody are afraid of the car catching fire, because that's a myth about the Miura as well.
Yes.
Is it more prone to catching fire than any other cars from the 70s?
I think it is, actually.
Good. So be scared. We have the fire extinguisher over in the corner.
Yes.
Why is that?
But there are 2 or 3 reasons that cause that, none of which I can tell you without killing you.
Oh, yeah,
These are trade secrets. Yeah. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yes.
You've become quite the Lamborghini expert. But then another myth is that they actually drive terribly.
Well, I think you can apply that myth to a lot of classic cars, E-Type Jaguars, old Ferraris, Lamborghinis, whatever. Normally, character, this car has too much character, etc. It's difficult to drive. That's not against the car as a model. It's against the maintenance it's had, basically, or the restoration. If you drive one of these that is beautifully sorted, of course it's not a modern car. I mean, it's not as roomy as most modern cars, but they are still they're challenging and satisfying to drive. If you drove this on, to use your earlier comment, if you drove this round the Alps, you would have big fun in this car. Changing gears, anticipating how the car is dancing in the corners, etc. Particularly when you've got a sheer drop of 2,000 meters on the side of the road. But you can't, that's one thing you can't do in a modern hypercar, because it takes such high speed to start to access the car's abilities. It's actually very difficult to do that in an everyday road situation. And they're also very wide compared to this. This is a very small car, actually. It's manageable on small roads. But yeah, so when they are right, I would venture to say they're actually a lot of fun, really.
So I actually hope, Troels, on the Alp tour that somebody will take a Miura out and participate in that. Ian's done it, you proved it can be done without catching fire or going off a cliff. And if you choose the latter one, we have an insurance for that, right?
Oh, you've covered every angle.
Yeah, we try to. That's what we do.
Yes.
That's what we do. And another myth, because this was actually, it was the fastest car in the world at the time, and I think Lamborghini quoted very theoretical numbers close to 300. And the myth says, at that speed, it takes off with the front.
That is absolutely correct. Yes.
So don't do it in the Alps.
Don't do it anywhere, preferably. I mean, that is one thing about Miuras. I mean, car manufacturers these days, obviously, cars like the Diablo GT over there started aero. They started the wings, the ground effect, the diffusers, etc. But in the 1960s, they didn't develop this car in a wind tunnel. They just, Marcello Gandini, the genius who is Marcello Gandini, designed this in less than 6 weeks from start to finish as an individual. No wind tunnels, nothing. So when the car was put into production, it was largely untested. And because it didn't have the aero, the research and development, a lot of cars of this era, for then, high speeds, the aerodynamics started to play tricks on the car. So either they were light at the front, light at the back, you know. I mean, we think of cars in the 90s. The Audi TT had problems when it was first launched because it started to be light at the back. And that's why Audi actually had to put a rear spoiler on the TT before it went into production, for example.
I think we need to issue a fair warning here, because if you have a Miura and send it up to DC workshop, take care. I say specifically to them, do not mount a front splitter on my car. That is not the purpose of this car. But it's still a very quick, quick car.
Yeah, I mean, 300 km/h was an exaggeration.
Yeah.
But maybe 270, 280. Remember, this was 1966, 67 when this car was launched. They were crazy figures for a road car then.
Yeah.
Really.
And maybe we should just say the reason we bought these 4 Lamborghinis in is also that they actually, to a large extent, shares the same engine. It was a mainstay of Lamborghini for many years.
That's right.
The wildest one is obviously in the Diablo GT, and
yes,
I'm not sure the carburettors on that must be bigger, right?
Well, that hasn't got carburettors.
No.
That's got fuel injection. But it hasn't got individual throttle bodies.
No.
But it still develops.
And the architecture is actually the same.
Yes, yeah.
How are we doing time-wise, Jakob? Okay, because we have actually one party trick in mind, because I noticed at the beginning Ian said this was designed as a race engine. And actually, it was detuned from that level. Yes. But we do have something special down here, the original engine out of that car. It was not complete, it was a mess, it was defect, it was taken out and a substitution engine put in. But actually, our owner said to Ian, can you make this engine run? And the big question is, could he?
Well, the phone went very silent for quite a while.
There was some months where you didn't answer.
Yes. So this is a very special car. This is the 6th ever Lamborghini production car. The 6th. It's chassis number 106. So At the time, Ferruccio Lamborghini was so nervous about his new babies that he didn't actually sell them to members of the public. He just sold them to friends and family. So 104, the car two before that, for instance, he sold to Edmondo Lamborghini, his brother, because if the cars had any problems, they're not going to be a customer who doesn't know him and calls and says, it's going to be, oh yes, of course, brother, bring your car back and we'll fix it. So we did a partial restoration on this car, I would say, and the car was delivered here some time ago. But as Claus said, the original engine was replaced at some point in the car's life, and I had a bare cylinder casting, that's all, just a bare block. And Mr. Nielsen said, please ask Iain if he can make it run.
Yeah.
And Mr. Nielsen is not the sort of person you say no to. So I did a lot of scratching of heads, and we talked with the team back at base, and we have managed, with some clever trickery, with machining and everything else, we have managed to bring that engine back to life. It's too delicate to go in a car because it couldn't actually stand the pressure of that. But as a working exhibit, I say working, did I just give a clue there?
I think you did, yeah. Maybe we should just try it out. And would you like to test Iain on his words? Then,
just to tell you now, the exhaust is minimalist. I think that's the adjective I would use.
if you have delicate ears, you might want to stand back.
Yes.
And this is then the original 3.5 liter incarnation. So this is one of the, well, coming from that car, one of the earliest Lamborghini engines ever.
Well, this is the 6th ever production Lamborghini engine. An incredible piece of history. It's one of the oldest surviving Lamborghini engines in the world, car engines. So,
and I also joked a bit about it, but certainly there was a certain bit of meaning to it, but this is what we'd all like in our living rooms, isn't it?
Maybe the neighbors would not be happy with that.
No, don't take it outside.
Okay, I give you fair warning, this is loud, okay? There you are. Don't try this at home.
Your children will love it.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Iain. That concludes the Iain Tyrrell Classic Workshop show.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, that concludes another Tyrrell's Classic Workshop video. Hope you've enjoyed it, something a little bit different. And please remember to subscribe, and we'll be back with something else very soon.